Well, I've woken up and another Labour lie has come to light. Isn't that a fucking shock? Ofgem has announced another 6.4% increase into energy bills. Now, this is a third consecutive increase in a row. So, Mr. Ed Miliband and the Labour Party told you that they'd be reducing your energy bills by £300 this year. Now we're on the third consecutive increase, another 6.4%. This means that average energy bills in the UK are going from £1,738 to £1,849. So just the average alone will be increasing by an extra £110, nearly an extra £10 a month. Now this starts April the 1st, so buckle up, things are going to get more expensive. Isn't that a shock? Oh, by the way, if you look outside, it's it down. Welcome to the UK where you can't afford. They keep raising your bills, they keep taking your hard-earned money, and the weather's always miserable. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
The reason your electricity prices are rising aren't because of net zero. It is because of greedy electricity companies. British Gas isn't owned by the public anymore. It operates on a for-profit basis. And there's really only one way to increase profit once you're serving all of your potential customers. And that is by raising prices. While your electricity prices rise, the bosses of British Gas are securing over 1.4 million in bonuses, as well as an 8 million pay package. The only way that this is possible is due to the rising of electricity prices, not because of net zero or anything else. Margaret Thatcher is still haunting you from beyond the grave. If you want prices to drop, we need to renationalize gas, not get rid of net zero.
Hello? Hello? Why is it so dark here? Hello? What are you doing? It's a candle. What's with the candles? Dad's gone mad. He won't let us turn the electric on. Not even the lights. Oh, stupid. Don't you dare! Listen, when I was younger, I was scared of the dark. But now, when I see my electricity bill, I'm scared of the light. Have you got that? Now go sit down there with your brother.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard Winstone, the Regulator Guy, and today we're talking about energy. So the UK government's launched a new consultation on contracts for difference, and to not bore you with all the details, effectively they want more offshore wind so that by 2030 we can have 95% of our electricity generated from renewable sources. Now, if you care about the environment, then this is fantastic. You know, it's what we're aiming for. And if you're really passionate about big profits for massive electricity generators, then this is also great news. 95% electricity being generated from renewable sources means huge profit margins for them. If you care about your own energy bill, like most of us do, and you're sick of this energy crisis, and you're worried about the elderly who have to choose between heating and eating every winter, then this makes no difference to us. If anything, it's just going to perpetuate the issue. So electricity in the UK, regardless of how it is generated, is always sold at one price, and that is the highest price of whatever is being generated on the grid. So under the government's new plans, under this consultation, we'll get to 95% renewable sources by 2030, but still 5% gas. Gas is the most expensive way to produce electricity. So regardless of the fact that 95% of the electricity in our country will be renewable, we will still be paying the same prices we are today because it's powered by gas, and our system only sells electricity at one price, which is the highest price. What that means is the cheap produced green energy is great for the generators because they can produce it very cheaply, and then they sell it to us at gas prices. So they get huge profit margins. It's great for the generators. We're still going to be paying hand over fist for our electricity bills in 2030. So just thought I'd keep you updated on that. If you want more interesting facts on the UK energy market, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks everyone.
Has anyone else had a massive issue with British Gas? Honestly, I'm just fuming. So back in November of 2023, and yes, this is how long it's gone on for, they gave me a bill, a 3-month bill of £4,500. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I don't live in an office block, so I knew that was impossible. So I argued I disputed the payment, and they basically came back and said, don't worry, you don't owe £4,000, you actually owe us 7. And I was like, as in like 7 grand. And I'm like, well, that can't be right, my loves. And it went on and on and on, and it got to August, and I ended up putting in a complaint and like leaving them for another company. They then sent me a final bill of 2.5 grand, which, don't get me wrong, better than 7, but I just knew it still was incorrect. So once again, I argued it again, and it ended up going to the ombudsman. Finally, in January, they like ended up resolving the complaint, and they worked out that my final bill actually meant that they owed me £400. So they paid me back that £400 in January. Now we're going to fast forward to the end of February. I just got a bill from them saying that I owe them £70. And while yes, £70 is not that much, I know that they've just paid me £400 in January. So why the hell would they now say that I owe them 70 quid? So I've called them and disputed the funds, and once again they've said, oh yeah, sorry, it was a mistake with my account. But I just wonder how many people have received these incorrect bills and just paid the payment, because if I had just like done what they said and just adjusted to the payments and paid them back, I would have been like out thousands of pounds by now. And like, I'm not gonna lie, when I got that bill through the other day of like 70 quid, it went through my mind like, oh, I may as well just pay it so that I don't have to like deal with them again. Like, how many people are paying more than what they're supposed to? Like, this is your sign. Like, don't just like, if you see a bill and you think it's high, argue it, because they clearly do not know what they are talking about.
The welfare cuts announced by Labour in Westminster are going to punish people for being poor, for being sick and for being disabled. But they're also going to hit us in Wales harder than other parts of the UK. Now, so far, Labour in Westminster have refused to confirm that. They've refused to conduct an assessment for Wales showing what we already have to guess, that because our population in Wales is ageing, because we have proportionally more people who are sick and disabled than the UK average, that it will affect us more. But they're refusing to do the assessment. They're refusing to acknowledge and to own up to the consequences of their actions, even though their counterparts in the Welsh Government have asked for that assessment. So, look, from a constitutional point of view, that's obviously terrible, but morally, it's reprehensible, because this isn't just about constitutional politics, it's about people's lives. And the reality of this for people's lives is thousands more people will be pushed into poverty, and some of the people who can least afford it are going to be affected. Now, this is a political choice. There is nothing inevitable about these cuts. Labour could have chosen instead to raise money through a wealth tax, to do any number of things that would have been more progressive. Instead, they have chosen to raise this money off the backs of some of the people in our society who can least afford it. And I think that's shameful, because it's not only going to be affecting people in their pockets, it's going to open the door to hatred. You know, Tanni Grey-Thompson has already warned that people who are disabled already are being targeted and shouted at in the street because of these cuts. It's going to vilify people. And there is nothing inevitable about that. Labour should know better than this. You know, we expected this kind of cruelty from the Tories when they were in power in Westminster. You know, lots of people thought that things would be better under Labour, and it just shows how wrong that hope was. We in Wales deserve so much better than this, and Plaid will keep fighting these cuts.
I'm getting kind of sick and tired, to be honest, of not being able to buy groceries. Like, I skip dinner every single friggin' night. Like, I'm so over this.
Cost of living in the UK. This is the grocery shop. This is what is happening here in the United Kingdom. Cost of living has driven the supermarkets to start tying things like this. Cost of living has caused a lot of problems. For example, you come to the area where they sell things like this, you will see things like this being tied up because of cost of living. Cost of living. It's caused so much problem. Cost of living. When you come to the good food area, cost of living has made the supermarket to tie good products like this, ghee, which is great for you for your food. It has been tied up. Cost of living. Cost of living. Cost of living. Things like this are not being tied up. They are not being tied up. Things like this, they are being tied up. Cost to tie up the needle cost of living in the UK. Milo is not tied up. Why? And cost of living has caused so many of us to be in problem. Just look at, before you take this to the till, it has been changed. Cost of living has made so much things expensive. Cost of living. Cost of living. That's cost of living. What cost of living has done to all of us in the UK. So get a second job online. Thank you. See these things in Tesco? You can't record it. I'm not recording. I'm recording myself. I can record myself. They come and steal this from Tesco. That's why Tesco have to lock things like this.
The middle class are the most affected in a recession. In good times, they're the ones that are most likely not to invest their money properly. They're the ones that are most likely going out and splashing out because, they make a bit of money. Some of them even start to feel like they're in the upper class of society in terms of economics. And they're the ones that tend to make the mistake of falling for the fear and greed cycle. And every recession, money and funds and wealth gets pulled back from middle class and sent back to the upper class and the rich because they understand how the process works. Now, the rich, they're so rich, they can afford to spend money at any time. Whenever the economy is booming or whether the economy is in a recession, people that are uber rich, it doesn't matter to them. Their wealth doesn't depend on the economy. Their wealth depends on their wealth. It just continues to make money. In fact, they tend to do better in a recession because that's when they invest in things at really low prices and they can end up selling when the price goes skyrocketing if they want to. The working class and the poor always suffer. It doesn't matter if the economy is booming or we're in a recession. In fact, during a recession, people who are in the working class who are poor already sort of know what to do. They've always suffered anyway. So, it's nothing new. It's the middle class. That's where the problem lies.
Hi folks, so I was watching a documentary about poverty in the UK and Great Britain, and these statistics will absolutely blow your mind. Now, considering we're meant to be one of the richest countries in the world, about 18% of people in the UK are living in extreme poverty, which I think is absolutely disgusting. There's around 25% of children also living in extreme poverty, and there's around 18% of people in the UK relying on food banks. Now, why, when we're meant to be one of the richest and most lavish countries in the world, is this happening? Now, I know this has got a lot worse since COVID. The gap between rich and poor has got astronomical. And I think a lot of this is due to the fact that jobs don't pay a living wage. Jobs have not kept up with inflation. The house prices in the UK have got totally out of control, especially in London, areas around London. Getting on the property ladder, unless you're earning about 100 or £150,000 a year, is absolutely impossible. And I just think, the way this country is going is absolutely disgusting. And I can see why people get fed up, why they get depressed, because the world our parents lived in the 70s and 80s, not saying that they had it easy, of course they didn't, but, house prices weren't as bad as what they were. It was slightly easier to get a mortgage. And a mortgage was only 3 to 4 times your yearly salary, not 10 to 15 times like you'd be looking at now. Now, especially with Labour coming in, what they've done with, they're going to be putting taxes up next year, and they're going to be making, transport's going to be going up, there's going to be a food tax. I don't blame people for being depressed. I don't blame people for feeling fed up. I don't know what the future of this country is going to hold. All I know is things are going to get hard for all of us. The standard of living is going to go down. Do you know anyone who struggled, guys? Let me know what you think in the comments. Since COVID, as your life maybe got worse, as your cost of living got out of control, are you finding it much harder to make ends meet? I just really don't know what the future holds for this country and our future generations. I just feel really sorry for young people growing up because they haven't got much to look forward to. A lot of them probably won't be able to afford their own houses, and life's going to be a lot harder for them. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. I'll be interested to hear what people think.
You might have noticed that everything has been getting a bit more expensive lately, and water bills are about to follow suit. From April, the average household water bill in England and Wales is going to be £603. That's an average increase of £10 a month. But the amount you'll have to pay really varies depending on what part of the country you're in. The biggest increase is for customers of Southern Water, which covers Sussex, Hampshire, Kent and the Isle of Wight. That's gone up by £224, which works out at about £19 per month.
You might have noticed everything is starting to get a little bit more expensive. You don't say, love. Not even a couple of quid. You know what I mean? A couple of quid a month. £10 a month, £120 over the year. And in some areas, £19 a month for water. For water. What they fill with shit. And I'll tell you why your bills are going up, because I told you about 6-7 months ago, all the raw pumping shit in sewage, what they've been pumping into our seas and rivers and ponds and lakes and all that shit, all them big fines they were getting, they just pushed it onto the consumer, us. That's why your bill's going up. Because isn't it weird that they get all these big fines and they get wrapped and they go on the news and they're all over the media, they've been pumping raw sewage in, but then you look at the CEO and he's getting millions of pounds in bonuses. That's weird, isn't it? Did they put any money back into the infrastructure? No, don't. Because when we had the floods a couple of months ago, it went to shit, didn't it? It is so wrong and backwards, this country, how it works. These big bosses take all these millions in bonuses, the infrastructure falls apart, they get wrapped and get a fine and just push it straight onto us and we've got to pay it. It's an absolute disgrace.
When are we going to hurry up and nationalise water companies? So today it's been announced that Thames Water has been fined £122 million, the biggest ever fine for a water company. This is for two reasons. The biggest reason number one, is because they keep releasing sewage when they shouldn't be. Basically, water companies are only allowed to release sewage into our water systems, seas, rivers, streams, etc., when there are exceptional circumstances. For example, that could be risk of flooding to housing. But they've been fined because they've been doing it routinely. The second fine comes down to dividend payments. Basically, off what the regulator has said, well, actually, you shouldn't have paid these dividends out because your financial position has been so poor. But it is worth remembering that they're in £19 billion worth of debt. But even if all this wasn't the case, I'd still be arguing for nationalisation for another reason. And that's because they have monopoly power. I mean, this is basic A-level economics. Monopoly power leads to higher prices. I'm going to talk about that one in a minute. Poor innovation and, poor quality of product or service. But we're clearly seeing that because the amount of sewage that is going into our water system across the country is crazy right now. Yeah, what about price increases? Well, this year, you might remember that your water bills have gone up. Thames Water, look, up 31%. But look how common it was. I mean, Southern Water, nearly up 50%. They have no competition, so they just do what they want. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree? Should water companies be nationalised? And before you go, don't forget to like and follow for more finance and investing content.
Okay, let me get this straight. Our rivers and our coastlines are being filled with shit. Actual shit. So much shit that is making people violently ill and sick. And the reason they're full of shit is because for the last 30 years, the water companies have been taking the money that we pay in our bills for the water, and instead of maintaining the system, have given all of it away to rich overseas investors to make them even richer. So my water bills are going to go up 40% to keep making rich people richer while my water supply continues to go to shit, despite the fact that none of us can barely afford to buy beans. And if you're not going to care about the fact that people are robbing us of our precious money while filling our waters with actual shit, then what are you going to care about? Oh, Kate Middleton's an alien. Fuck off. How much shit is it going to take before we start giving a shit?
So if the sun wasn't out right now, I reckon we'd be rioting, because I just got my water bill, £67 a month, for a water company that routinely, illegally dumps poo in the river behind me. Used to be able to swim in that river, can't anymore. And multiple times last year, couldn't drink the water. We had a notice not to drink the water because I wasn't sick. So what are we paying it for? On top of my borough putting the council tax above the cap. This sunshine is the only thing that's stopping people from losing their shit right now.
Hello guys, it's been a little while. Hope you're all keeping well. I was outside this shopping complex, sitting here, just waiting around for the shoppers to shop. And I started wondering, the brain started braining for some weird reason. And I started thinking, we're so advanced, right, in the West. I mean, we're an example for other nations to follow. We set the precedence. How comes we're still paying for food, for water, for shelter, Why is having to pay for fuel even on the agenda? With all these advancements in AI, why does it still take so long to get a hospital appointment? To the point, I actually believe that collectively, we can make all of these things viable and accessible. And when I mean accessible, I mean things like fuel, food, shelter, we can make free. No more mortgages. It's the fat cats that make the rules right there to make them fatter. That's the problem.
Does anyone else have dinners that they refer to as council dinners? Like, there are dinners that there's dinners that we do that I call them council dinners. So like ham, egg and chips, or corned beef hash, or fish fingers, chips and beans. Like, these are, like, in my head, these are council dinners. Why is it that these council dinners have got to the point where I might as well rename them mortgage dinners? Like, have you seen the price of corned beef? Like, I went into Asda and they were doing fish fingers for $7.99. Like, these are now gourmet dinners, not council dinners. Like, what we eating that's council dinners now? Like, can't even say it's like margarine and bread because the price of those is through the roof as well. Like, what is going on? I genuinely am at the point where I might ask my local shoplifters if they're going to start running classes, because if it continues to go like this, we ain't going to be able to afford to shop nowhere. Like, this is madness. Surely something's got to change. Like, every time I think I've got to my limit of things being as bad as they're going to get in terms of prices, I'm just surprised again that they can actually get worse. Like, at what point are we going to see a return on our money? Like, I keep hearing that, oh, inflation's better, and mate, it's not. Someone needs to tell my purse that my wage is not lasting a month. Like, so what's going on?
I can't even afford to buy a food shop for my house. Like, wait, how did my life get like this? I know times are hard. I really, and obviously times are hard. I can't even afford a food shop. I literally just had to walk out of Aldi, and if anybody's seen me in Aldi, and I'm sorry if I held yous up, because I was like trying to juggle cards and split it with cash and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not going back into Aldi. That's absolutely embarrassing. It's humiliating. So I'm now having to come to another shop, and I know how much I've got, so I'll just get enough for the kids for school and that. But that skint now that I can't even afford a full food shop for my house. And it wasn't even a full food shop, do you know, that way it was 50 quid. That's how much the shopping was, it was 50 quid. Honestly. And people go, oh, stay at home mums, you're just hanging off the brew and all that kind of stuff. It's not that straightforward, it's hard. And I can't go out and work the now because I'm my son and I've no childcare and all that kind of stuff. And I am starting to punt stuff on TikTok shop to try and get a bit of money. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not going to go that far to start begging. So always keeping it real on here. I'm not putting any fakeness out there. I physically just had to walk out of a shop and leave food shop because I couldn't afford it. You've got people out there that get stuff handed to them and start gloating. And it's like, there's people like me that are genuinely struggling, do you know what I mean? If I wasn't on manic depressants, I'd probably be crying my eyeballs out, but at the moment I can't cry, so. Aye. As long as my winds are fed and I've got a roof over my head, then I shouldn't be moaning. So, into the next shop, and I won't get shit denied off my card because I'll know how much I can spend. So Natalie here can't even afford a £50 food shop.
Due to the cost of living and things like that nowadays, a lot of people that you wouldn't think are struggling are really, really struggling. A lot of people in full-time work. There's people I know that have 2 jobs and they still find it hard. So in that sense, you can imagine how many children would suffer and have to go to school in the morning without having something to eat through no fault of their own and through no fault of their parents either. So for that, in that respect, a lot of the primary schools that we deal with and go to see, I really, 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 really admire that work. Being a father myself, I would hate to be in the position. I would hate to have my son in that position. And that position could be a stone throw away for all of us. So, as I said, this job has really humbled me.
British people are literally getting poorer every year, and this is because their wages are not going up in line with inflation. So when you are paid a salary and you get an increase, generally that should be in line with inflation. When it isn't is when we see a cost of living crisis. Everything is more expensive and people are struggling, and that is making them poorer every year.
I've been really hungry the last 3 days.
So what did you eat yesterday?
I had fish fingers and beans.
What else did you have?
That's it. That's all I had, was fish fingers and beans.
What about lunch?
No. I just fill up on tea.
57-year-old Paul lives alone in his 2-room flat, always keeping the lights off to save electricity. His vehicle repair career ended prematurely due to ill health and now relies on government help. Paul receives £843 on universal credit. However, after paying rent and bills, he is left with just,
on average, £30 for the month. That's for food, washing, because I have to use a laundrette to do my washing. And that's expensive. No.
So £30?
Yeah.
Katie May has been coming here to what is called a social supermarket for a year to help with food costs. She has her own house and a mortgage and cares full-time for her mother and 2 children whilst her fiancé works. However, they still find themselves having to borrow money to keep afloat.
People are shocked after finding out that more than 2 million adults in the UK cannot afford to eat due to the cost of living crisis. Check this out. A recent study commissioned by the Mental Health Foundation found that more than 52% of people in the UK were worried about being able to afford food from the supermarket. This also comes at a time where a couple in Devon were reported to not eat for up to 3 days at a time to ensure that their kids can actually eat. I just don't understand how people are living like this in 2025, but the UK government definitely have a lot to answer for, because the Mental Health Foundation even conducted a study. The same study found that 65% of people in the UK were anxious or stressed about being able to pay for just general household bills. It's also estimated that 1 in 7 adults in the UK, meaning 7.3 million people in the UK, are actually food insecure, meaning that they have anxiety or stress about being able to pay for food. This is definitely not right. I feel like every time you go into your local Asda, Sainsbury's, Morrison's or Tesco, it's getting so expensive just for the basic necessities, and I don't know how people are living. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments in this one, and if you know any charities or anything, please let people know in the comments so people can help each other during this cost of living crisis, because this is really not right.